School is right around the corner, and I've got a real stake in this one. I'm a teacher and I'm a dad of 13-year-old twins heading into grade 8, which means I'm shopping for two computers without breaking the bank. So when this MacBook Neo showed up, Apple's most affordable MacBook ever, running the same full macOS as my MacBook Pro, I had questions. So in this video, who is this for? What does it do well? And what is it built for? I'm JV, and let's get into it. Quick disclosure before we start. Apple sent me this MacBook Neo to check it out. Everything in this video is my own take. The MacBook Neo is Apple's new entry-level laptop. It sits below a MacBook Air at almost half the price of the base model. In US dollars, it starts at $699 or $599 with education savings. For years, the cheapest way into a MacBook was an older MacBook Air on sale. The Neo changes that. This is a brand new Mac designed for students and everyday work at a price no Mac has even come close to. It comes in 4 colors: silver, blush, citrus, and indigo, each with a matching keyboard. The body is recycled aluminum and at 60% recycled content overall. It's the highest of any Apple product so far. The short version, this is a real Mac, not a cut down one, and that was what makes the rest of this video worth watching. Let's get specific about age groups for this, because 4 students cover a lot of ground. The sweet spot is middle school through high school, exactly where my two are. Full macOS instead of a Chromebook, an aluminum body that survives their backpack, colors kids actually want, and a price where a cracked screen isn't a family crisis. And with the education pricing on top, this is the first time Apple has really competed in that space. Next, college students. Outside technical programs, writing papers, research, presentations, video calls, the Neo handles all of it. And the 16-hour battery life gets you through a full campus day. It also works as a family laptop, a first computer, or that shared one on the kitchen counter. One group I'd steer away from: elementary students. At that age, an iPad or school-issued devices make more sense. A laptop is solving a problem they don't have yet. If you're in that middle school to college range or buying for someone who is, keep watching, because this next part is the daily experience. The Neo weighs about 2.7 pounds, the same as a MacBook Air 13. It disappears into the backpack. You get the full Magic Keyboard and the big multi-touch trackpad, so typing and scrolling feel like every other modern Mac. The step-up model adds Touch ID for unlocking and passwords. The 13-inch Liquid Retina display runs at 500 nits. That's the brightness level. And text is the story here, but crisp and easy to read for long stretches, which is most of what school actually is. 2 honest notes. The screen is a sRGB, not the wider P3 color you get with the MacBook Air. And there's no true tone. So for homework, browsing, and video calls, you won't notice. For photo and video work, you will. More on that later. Now, for the work students actually do, this display is more than enough. Inside is the A18 Pro, the chip from the iPhone 16 Pro, tuned for a laptop. Now, let's see what that means in practice. Let's open a class notes document. Up in the writing tools, Apple Intelligence can summarize these notes into key points. This is useful when you're reviewing before a test instead of rereading everything. Next, presentation. This is a case study for a business class, a small coffee company called Basecamp Brew Co. Keynote opens fast, slides move without lag, and you can present straight from the laptop. Now, let's stress it a little. Safari with a dozen tabs, messages open, music playing. This is a realistic school day, and Neo doesn't slow down. Now, one spec to know: 8 gigabytes of memory for a few apps at a time, which is how most students work, is fine. Push much past that and you'll find the ceiling. Now, that's the honest trade-off at this price. For everyday schoolwork, this machine moves like a Mac twice its price. Apple rates the Neo at up to 16 hours. As a teacher, here's why that number matters. Chargers get forgotten, and outlets in a classroom are never where you need them. This gets the student from morning classes to evening homework on one charge. It charges over USB-C, and there are 2 USB-C ports plus a headphone jack. 2 ports is tight if you connect a lot of accessories, but for a student setup, charger, maybe a drive, it works. All-day battery on a laptop at this price used to be the trade-off. Here, it's the headline. If the student has an iPhone, the Neo picks up all the continuity features. AirDrop a photo from a phone and it lands on the desktop in seconds. No cables, no emailing yourself. Messages and FaceTime run right on the laptop, so texting doesn't mean picking up the phone mid-essay. And with a handoff, a web page or a document open on the phone continues on the Mac. For teens especially, this is the feature set that makes a Mac feel worth it over a Chromebook. Here's the section most coverage skips. Video editing and heavy creative work, no. iMovie basics are fine, but 8 gigabytes of memory and a phone class chip are the wrong tools for a student or anyone editing every week. Computer science and engineering students, no. Virtual machine containers, big code builds, 8 gigabytes will hurt daily. A MacBook Air with 16 gigabytes or more is the right call there. Serious gaming, no. Apple Arcade runs well, but big AAA titles are not what this machine is for. Color critical work, no. That's that sRGB screen we talked about, rules out photography and design coursework where color accuracy is graded. And heavy multitaskers, if your normal is 20 tabs plus 5 big apps at once, you'll bump into that memory ceiling. One more piece of honest math, by the time you spec up to the 512 gigabyte model, you're close enough to a discounted MacBook Air that you should compare the two before buying. That's the classic Apple pricing, and it's worth knowing before walking in. If you saw yourself in this list, buy the Air. If you didn't, the Neo is the better value. Two configs. The base model, 256 gigabytes, covers most students because schoolwork lives in the cloud anyway. The step-up model is around $100 more, doubles the storage to 512 gigabytes, and adds that Touch ID. My take, most families should buy the base model with education pricing and then put the savings towards a case. And if you're buying more than one like I am, every dollar of that difference doubles. The base model gets even easier to justify. Go 512 if the laptop needs to last into college or storage heavy coursework is coming. And check the education price eligibility. It covers college students and parents buying for them. And here's the part that matters for me. Teachers and school staff qualify too. Verify your own eligibility on Apple's education store because it makes the best Mac deal Apple has ever offered even better. Pick the config for the student you have now, not the one from 3 years from now. These machines hold up either way. So that's the MacBook Neo, a real Mac at a price that finally makes sense for school, even when you're buying two. If you're deciding this month, write down the 3 things that your student does most on a laptop and check them against this video. If you want to see what this Mac can do with AI tools once it's set up, I've got a playlist for that right here. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.